What's up YouTube? In today's video I will compare the ultra-modern market versus the pre-modern and vintage when it comes to rookie material, and I believe this will be a very interesting topic. If in the end you're not enjoying this video, please consider to leave a like, is the best way to show support. Apart from that, if you are a new viewer, also consider to subscribe. Two more things before we go into the topic. I will be quite fast. I have a Discord server with more than 900 members, and I think that's an amazing place to interact with me, to interact with other collectors, and if you love the soccer card market, that's the place to be. Second thing, I have a Patreon community, so if you want to support this channel, that will be the best way, but I put content there every week. So if you love my content on YouTube, good chance you also love my content on Patreon. $10, if that's a lot of money to you, don't feel any pressure. At the end of the day, there will always be free content on YouTube. Putting all of that out of the way, again, check links below the video, but let's go into the topic, and I hope you have fun. So guys, today's video is a very important one, and I believe also a fun one. The card you are seeing on the screen, Grid, is one of my favorite cards ever in Magic the Gathering, and I thought that card made sense for today's video, and you guys will understand why in a second. But I also want to start with something positive about the market, something that I believe should be said. I feel like the market right now is quite healthier than it was, for example, 2 years ago, around the mania that we had in the collectible space. I see much better content online and people trying to push critical thinking into the space, into the community. I love that. All of that is positive stuff. In the other hand, I also see a lot of people still not understanding how dangerous the ultra-modern market actually is. Modern/prospecting always had a lot of similarities to gambling, and I think that's fine as long you understand the risk. Sadly, I'm not sure if a lot of participants understand the risk, and I also believe there is participants that they know the risk, but they still push this dangerous narrative that modern is a great buy long run, that modern is the way to go. When you put in perspective modern/ultra-modern with pre-modern and vintage, for me it's quite clear that the opportunity is not there. There will be opportunities in all areas of the market, but I believe our market is quite focused in modern right now, and that's something I hope I can change. Even if one person watching this video, I would be happy, because I will put a lot of stuff in perspective in this video. So let's start this conversation trying to bring some critical thinking, and the example I have for you is actually a very interesting one. Jude Bellingham versus Zinedine Zidane. Let me start with this, and I think it's very fair to say that Bellingham is actually one of the best prospects that we have in the soccer world. Forget cards, Bellingham is actually an amazing player. As a football fan, I love to watch Bellingham. That said, if your idea is investing for the long term, I don't see how you can justify his market versus pre-modern/vintage legends. Well, if you look at the graphic and see how many rookies a lot of these new guys have. Pedri, for example, have over 200 different rookies. Bellingham over 300 different rookies. Crazy to think about. And spoiler alert, this is getting worse and worse every year. We have more product being released than ever. Panini/Topps try to combat this overproduction with serial numbered cards, something that most of you guys are aware at this point. But that's just a good way to trick you into a false notion of real rarity. Okay, now let's talk about the Bellingham out of 50 cards. As you can see on the screen, there is 30 rookie cards out of 50 for Jude Bellingham. That alone makes 1.5k copies. If you want to put all the numbered cards together, we are talking about more than 10k numbered cards, guys. I'm just talking about the rookie season, not the entire market for Bellingham. Sounds crazy? I know, but this is the market we have right now. And let's be real, sometimes you see people with a numbered card and they are actually paying big money and they think, I have a numbered card, I'm safe. Well, not really. I mean, 10k, actually more than 10k, is not a small number by any means. Onred, okay, that's great, but I'm buying the out of 50. Well, 1.5k is also not that small of a number. Oh, but I'm buying the set that everyone likes. I'm sorry, but you do not know that. In the long run, we probably have no idea what will be the sets that will have the stronger collector base. I guess we can speculate in Top Scrum, Sapphire, etc. But things are very relative in Modern. A lot of narratives special for soccer are getting made right now, are gaining strength right now. So, wait, Andre, but what about base refractors, color that are not numbered? Because you are just talking about numbered cards. Guys, if you know my opinion about numbered cards, that is not that great, so you can imagine what will be my opinion if you are buying base cards for Bellingham, base cards for any of the new guys. Yeah, not great at all. At this point, you should know, and I've said, if you know, you know. Now let's talk about something that I like quite more, Zinedine Zidane. Top 10, maybe even top 5 player in a lot of lists, but let's say top 10 all-time great. And the crazy thing about Zidane is Zidane have one rookie. I really think, and guys, please pay attention, I really think a lot of people can't understand how powerful that will be in the future. Let's talk about pop total for him. 118 total copies graded between SEC and PSA. That represents 7% of the potentially pop total that Bellingham can have just in the out of 50 cards. Okay, Andrea, that's great. But Zidane is also more expensive. Honestly, yes and no. The orange sapphire you are seeing on the screen for Bellingham, also out of 50, sure, is a PSA 10, sold for 2.7k USD. Now look at the Zidane PSA 6, say a mid-grade, actually even a decent grade for that sticker, also sold for 2.7k. Which one you would prefer to have in your collection? Which one you believe more in the long run? Well, things are simple, my friend. You can have an all-time great in Zidane, or you can have a player that most likely in 10-20 years is not relevant at all. Talking about Bellingham, even if I actually like the kid a lot, looking at odds, that will be the most likely scenario. You can have a rookie for an all-time great that in terms of lineage, in terms of history, is one of the most iconic cards we have in the market. A card released actually in the country of the player, in this case France. So many things to like about the Zinedine Zidane rookie. I will say it again because this is the things I actually have passion for. Lineage, Panini Foot, what a great set. History, I mean this card is from the season 91-92. The history, the lore around the card like this. You have condition, rarity, and honestly, if you put in perspective, there is more than 10k numbered cards for Bellingham. I think you have rarity on the Zinedine Zidane rookie sticker. Being honest, I understand we cannot predict the supply for sure in 10 years, but the reality is, I think at this point, I feel quite comfortable to say that 10k potentially graded for Zidane seems very unlikely. Even 1k will take years looking at the pace we are going right now. Well, maybe you think Bellingham will be an all-time great, even better than Zidane, Zizou. And your gold card with bubbles is something that is actually really special. And for sure, because you are a genius most likely, the set you end up choosing will stand out the test of time. Well, if you are that guy, my channel is probably not for you. You probably are watching a guy that the English is not even that great. He loves to talk about the history of the soccer card market. He loves to spend time putting things in perspective, and you do not relate with me. You can close the video. I'm sorry for the time you end up spending watching all of this crazy stuff I'm sharing with you. For the other ones, I hope you put this type of stuff in perspective every time you think about pre-modern, every time you think about vintage versus modern, and I think putting in perspective makes a lot of sense. Now let's finish my thoughts on this. I actually think Bellingham is a great player, and it's fine if you want to speculate on Bellingham, on Pedri, does not matter the name, as long you understand the risk you have associated with that. If you understand that, all good. Now let's move on to another thing that I think is important also to mention. Because there will be a smart dandy on the comments saying something like this: I just buy new rookies with fundamentals. The example you end up giving me, André, I understand. Bellingham is an awful buy. There is a lot of rookies, 10k numbered cards, that crazy. I know a guy that is actually amazing. Okay, what player are you talking about? Darwin Núñez. This was the narrative not that long time ago. So I want to be transparent on this one. I actually made money with Darwin Núñez rookie cards. I'm a Benfica supporter, and because of that I was aware of him years ago. And my entry point was very cheap for him. Of course, when I saw the market going so crazy for Darwin Núñez, I sold everything. Maybe you are the ones that bought the cards from me and you are holding the bag right now. It is what it is. You need to become smarter on this type of stuff. Modern is a very, very risky place. Prospecting even more. And this goes direct to my point. When performance is your primary demand driver, all the other fundamentals become much less relevant. So the idea that you are buying a guy that have great fundamentals, you are probably not understanding what's going on. Sure, the Darwin Núñez market looks a bit better than the Bellingham one. I think we all agree with that. But guess what? If this guy does not perform, you are still in a dangerous zone. And right now, I would much rather have a Bellingham card, even though there is many more rookie cards for him than Darwin, than having Darwin that is playing awful at this point at Liverpool. Not that I care about any of them, to be honest, when it comes to collecting, to investing, but you guys understand the point. Things are quite complex in the prospecting world, and saying that the prospecting have fundamentals, they are quite relative in the sense that performance is the key fundamental, is the key force when it comes to investing all of these guys. So my question for you is this: who is the next player to become irrelevant? Because again, Bellingham is a good player, but his market is very difficult to invest. You are seeing that Darwin is not performing at all. But what about Doku? Well, no one is talking about him. You guys might not remember, but in the Euro 2020, 2021 in this case, this guy was one of the prospects people was talking the most. No one cares about him anymore. Gonçalo Ramos. Oh, do you guys remember the hat-trick in the World Cup? No one is talking about him anymore. Guess what? Very similar case to Darwin Núñez. Great fundamentals, right? Well, it is what it is, my friends. What about Antony? Do you guys remember Antony? Well, he's playing at Manchester United. Big club, right? Better than Ajax, but his market is down. His market was stronger at Ajax. I have a video on this channel with the name Priced In, and there is so much priced in for all of these guys that you really need to be very careful. I could put a crazy number of names on this list. Even Foden, for example, that at one point people thought this is the next guy. Foden is not even playing at Manchester City. So things are so tricky when it comes to modern that you really need to be careful. So now I want to share something that I believe is actually underappreciated by the market. All-time greats, top 20, top 30 with just one rookie. All the ones you are seeing on the screen, they just have one rookie. Maradona probably being the biggest one, but you also have Van Basten, Ronaldinho, Zidane, Michel Platini, that if you look at the pop reports, this stuff seems crazy underappreciated, especially if you compare with the modern market. So look at Van Basten, for example. 29 copies graded. Guys, Van Basten won 3 times Ballon d'Or. Platini, 100 copies graded. Guys, this guy also won 3 times Ballon d'Or. Maradona. Well, if you don't know Maradona, again, my channel is not for you. Probably top 4 type of player that we have in our market. All of them together, 384 copies graded at PSA. This represents 25% of the potentially pop total for Bellingham out of 50 cards, 1.5k like I said. Of course, not all of them will be graded, but you guys get the point. This is just me putting in perspective how crazy the pre-modern and the vintage market are, especially for players with just one rookie. Let's move on. Well, you can tell me, André, soccer is not even the worst. If you look at NBA, things are much crazier there. For example, look, I have 1.3k different rookie cards across all sets and parallels. Well, I agree with you. If you compare with Luka, Bellingham does not look that bad. But you also can make an argument that both look really bad. Maybe Luka looks extra bad because of that, but both look really, really bad. I believe a lot of this stuff is still in a bubble. A lot of this stuff still have a long way to go in terms of a correction. But that's beside the point. I actually was looking at one of my favorite content creators in the space, baseball card collector dealer in that order, quite important. And in one of his Q&As, a fan ended up sending him a question related with this topic that I want to play right now for you guys, because I think his opinion is very similar to mine and he explains probably much better than me. So let's play it.
Jeff Go wrote, with all the different releases and print runs, how do you see cards holding value in the future, such as Julio Rodriguez having like 500 different rookie cards? Yeah, so I've talked about this a few times, and I just think that these sort of cards are just really going to struggle to go up in value long term or hold their value long term. There's just so many of them, so much supply, so many different cards and brands and copies, and I mean, it might feel like a lot of them are rare, like you have a card numbered out of 50, but he's got 1,000 other cards numbered out of 50, and they're all sort of interchangeable with each other in terms of collector interest. Like, for the most part, most collectors wouldn't care if they have this one numbered out of 50 or this one numbered out of 50. They're basically the same thing, and so it feels like they might be rare, but when you add it all up, they're really not. And on top of that, the prices are so high out of the gate. I mean, prospect cards have always been kind of overvalued, but today it's to an extreme level where it's baked into the prices that these players are going to be all-time greats. So they have to be an all-time great just to hold their value, right? If they become sort of a very, very good, the cards are going to drop significantly long-term. So I think that's probably the fate of most of the ultra-modern stuff, of ultra-modern rookies in the last couple of years.
Okay, so not a lot I can add into that. I basically agree with everything. If you guys are not aware of him, I believe he's one of the best channels in the community. He focuses more on the American sports than soccer, but he also covers soccer from time to time. So shout out to him, an amazing content creator, and I thought this was actually a great clip to show to all of you guys. Jeff. So let's move on. Modern, in my perspective, goes from 2014 until 2017, and Ultramodern goes from 2018 until now. Wait, Andre, what is that? I thought that there is just modern or just ultramodern, and maybe you can make the argument for that. I actually think makes sense to split the modern era in two parts, modern versus ultra-modern. And in modern we have probably the grail sets that you can think about. Topps Chrome 2017, Prism 2014, we also have the first year for Flawless, the first year for Eminence, so amazing sets actually in the modern era. Ultramodern got a bit crazy because we have a stupid amount of sets right now. We have multiple variations for Topps Chrome, we have Merlin, we have Heritage, we have Obsidian, Stadium, basically you name it. I don't want to take credit of this. Actually, the first person I saw talking about modern versus ultramodern is my friend James, and I thought, you know what, let me send a message to James. Maybe he can record something for us and explain his thoughts on this. And I did that. So let's take a look at what James said about modern versus ultramodern and why he believes makes sense to split the modern era in two parts.
So the reason I personally separate modern into two different sections of modern and ultra modern is because, well, first we start off with what I think everybody agrees the modern ultra modern era starts off in, which is 2014. That's when you have Panini World Cup Prism come out. That's the first really Americanized set. It's super high production. It has, well, not super high production, but high production for the time. It has a bunch of parallels, and it's a very Americanized set, and that's sort of the soccer market becoming more mainstream in the United States, at least. So you have that set come out, and then in 2015, you have Panini come out with two different sets, Select and Donruss. They're not received all that well. They stopped doing Donruss, and they do Select for a couple more years. And then Topps is coming out with Champions League products, but they're paper-based, and then they come out with Chrome finally in 2017, and that has a limited run of parallels, and it's high production, but not super high production. And so you have that area of 2014 to 17 where you get the first two huge mainstream products for our sport by our two biggest brands. And then you move forward into 2018, where production levels spike not just in soccer, but across all the different sports. For example, in basketball, 2017 Prism has like half or less than half of the population of 2018 basketball. So Panini and Topps in 2018, due to market demand, start producing a lot more product, not just for soccer, but for other sports as well. And so when 2018 World Cup Prism comes out, it has 2 or 3 times as many cards as 2014 Prism. There's twice as many numbered parallel cards than there are in 2014 Prism. 2018 Topps Chrome comes out with more colors. And from 2018 into all the way through where we are at in the Ultramodern era now, you have a ton of different sets with a bunch of different parallels. I think now we have 50 sets coming out every year, whereas in between 2014 and 17, you had maybe 5 to 10 sets come out for soccer in those years. And this is reflected in the population reports as well. And so one of the really interesting things, in my opinion, is that if you look at the population reports, the amount of soccer cards graded from the years 2014 to 2017 are equal to the number of soccer cards graded in just 2018. So just that 2018 year has as many cards graded as 2014 through 2017. And then obviously when you add on 2018, 19, 20, 21 and 22 as we go forward, those numbers start looking crazy compared to the years before. And so that's how I split them out. You start off in 2014 to 17 where you get the first Americanized product. They're high print run, but compared to what comes after them, they're very short print run. And then things get crazy in 2018 because the general sports card market starts to get really hot, as well as Panini and Topps have these brands that they start pushing out every year. They branch off into new products. And so the population reports just get a lot crazier once you go from 2018 and onwards, especially when you compare that to 2014 to 2017.
So guys, not a lot I can add into that. I think James ended up explaining very well his thoughts and I agree with him in general. And I would say just one more thing. If you want to invest in modern, first of all, stay away of prospecting. That's really, really dangerous. And most likely you will lose money long run. And second, try to focus in sets that actually have great history, great fundamentals. Of course, there is 2 sets that stand above the others. I'm talking about 2014 Panini Prism World Cup, the set that ended up starting the modern era, and 2017 Topps Chrome. Just think about this, and this is an example that everyone will understand. The more Topps Chrome sets they made, in this case every year, right now there is actually variations for Topps Chrome, the more special the 2017 becomes. This is an amazing way to think about collectibles. I did this in DCGs, and I think you can also apply this logic in the soccer card world, in sports cards. So 2017, very special. 2014 Prism also very special, and is very easy to understand why. Again, if you want to invest in Obsidian, Merlin, etc., look, maybe there is something there, especially if you are buying Legends, especially if you are buying really low-numbered stuff. But you need to be careful. We don't know how well this type of sets will age. At this point, makes a lot of sense to believe if the soccer card market as well, Prism will be iconic set because of the history related with 2014 Prism. 2017 Topps Chrome makes also a lot of sense, and is probably the brand that people like the most nowadays. So everything is said. I think at this point you should be aware of this type of stuff, and this is basically what James was talking about. Just look at PSA totals in different sports. You can see that pre-modern vintage is very important in football, is very important in baseball. Basketball is a bit different, but look at soccer. This is something that does not make a lot of sense. It's something that you can look at like an opportunity. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I end up putting a lot of effort doing a video like this. A lot of research goes in this type of videos. Please do not forget to leave a like. Do not forget to check my Discord and to check my Patreon if you like this type of content. I also put similar content on Patreon. Have a nice day. Bye.